in the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, so we said he wasn't able to be a khalifa because of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. In the time of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Uthman tried to make Abdullah ibn Umar a qadi, a judge. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, not only will I not be a judge, I'm not going to judge between the people, nor will I lead them in salah. Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, Ata'asini, are you disobeying me? I'm the Khalifa, are you disobeying me? He said, no. He said, but I know that judges, al-qudaa, judges are of three types. He said, there's a man who judges with ignorance and he goes to hell. And there's a man who judges unjustly and he goes to hell. And then there is a man who uses his ijtihad, he uses his reasoning, and he might go to heaven and he might go to hell. Right? So he said judges are of three types. So he says, I don't want to be any of them. Uthman radiallahu anhu said, your father used to judge. Omar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to judge. He said, my father used to judge, and when he was asked about something, he would ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was unsure of something, he would ask Jibreel alayhi salam. He said, who am I supposed to ask? Right? Who am I supposed to ask? And so Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, did you not hear Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that whoever seeks refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from leadership has done well? Right? إنها أمانة وإنها يوم القيامة خزي وندامة, that leadership is a trust, and that on the day of judgment it's regret and it's remorse. So haven't you heard the Prophet ﷺ say that? So Uthman radiallahu anhu said yes. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he excused him, and he said to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu not to share that with people, because then he wouldn't be able to find a judge. Okay? Now when the fitna starts, we get to the sad part here. When the fitna starts here, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the approach that he takes is one of absolute silence. So just to recap here, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he took the peacemaker role. So he fought on the side of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, but he still maintained a good relationship with everybody. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As ended up on the side of Muawiyah because of his father. Abdullah ibn Umar takes no side whatsoever. Absolute silence, doesn't end up in anybody's army. Okay? He's not in anybody's army. But he still defends the Sahaba. So actually when the fitna started, we said that the fitna was first to delegitimize Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So in Sahih al-Bukhari, there's a narration that there was a man that came from Egypt to perform Hajj, and he saw people doing Hajj. And he saw people that were sitting there, and he saw them sitting around a man, an old man. So he asked them who they were, and they said, that's Quraysh. And he said, who's the old man? They said, that's Abdullah ibn Umar. So this man walks up to Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he said, I want to ask you something. And he said, be straightforward with me. He said, do you know that Uthman fled from the battle of Uhud? Abdullah ibn Umar said, yes. He said, and do you know that Uthman wasn't present on the day of Badr? Abdullah ibn Umar said, yes. And he said, did you know that Uthman didn't witness Bay'atul Ridwan, the pledge under the tree? He said, yes. So the man said, Allahu Akbar, and you leave this hypocrite in charge of us? You see how it started? So Abdullah ibn Umar, he responds to him, he says, as for Uhud, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave everyone on the day of Uhud. The people that left the battlefield in Uhud, Allah azza wa jal forgave all of them. So he said, that's irrelevant. He says, as for Badr, the Prophet ﷺ told him to stay back on the day of Badr because his wife Ruqayya, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, was sick, and she actually died on the day of Badr. That's why they called Badr the day of great joy and the day of great sadness, because the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ passed away on that day. And Uthman radiallahu anhu was so grieved, and the Prophet ﷺ actually counted Uthman from the warriors of Badr, because Rasulullah ﷺ gave him a share of the spoils of war. And he said, as for Bay'atul Ridwan, the pledge of the tree, it was for him. The whole point of the pledge of the tree was that Uthman supposedly got held back, and that the rumor was that he was killed. So how is he going to witness Bay'atul Ridwan? How is he going to witness the pledge to defend himself? But this shows you the ignorance that was growing in the ummah, right? And people that weren't Sahaba, that didn't know the seerah well, that didn't know what had happened, and that were buying into this, the slandering of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he stood firmly against that. Now when Uthman radiallahu anhu was killed, the Sahaba actually offered Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu to be the Khalifa. Okay? So Imam al-Dhahabi says that Abdullah ibn Umar rejected the qada he rejected to be a judge under Uthman, and then after Uthman, the Sahaba, when they sat amongst themselves, it was suggested that Abdullah ibn Umar would be the Khalifa. Not only did he say it's not happening, he escaped Medina without the permission of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Ali was very upset. All right, just again, to put you, every one of these is going to make the situation clear. Medina is besieged now. Uthman was assassinated, so we said that Abdullah ibn Abbas was on his way to Hajj. The mothers of the believers, Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, they fled to Mecca. They were escorted to safety in Mecca. So Medina now is really, the Khawarij are in charge. All right, these people are in charge. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu is trying to work things out with a group of Sahaba, right, a small group of Sahaba to try to figure things out. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he left Medina without asking Ali his permission. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was very upset because he thought that Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu was joining another group of people or that it meant something. But Ibn Umar, he left a letter for Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he essentially said to Ali radiallahu anhu that I wasn't leaving. I'm not leaving out of any form of khiyana, out of any form of betrayal to you, or out of any dissatisfaction for you. He said, I'm just protecting myself from this fitna. For him, it was just withdrawal. He went to Mecca. When he saw Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha, Hafsa is his sister, joining Aisha radiallahu anha and Talha and Zubayr going from Mecca to demand that justice for Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he made Hafsa stay with him. So he told Hafsa, no, let's stay away from this and we'll be safer. So this is his approach. He rejects all of these things. So he's not present in any of these battles. He's not present in the battle of the Siffin. He's not present in the battle of the Jamal. He's not present in any of these battles. He just withdraws himself altogether. He doesn't pledge to anybody, and he keeps himself safe from fitna. So his methodology is absolute silence, right? Now, a lot of times today, whenever people want to claim that they're taking politically ethical positions, they'll say, we're just doing what Ibn Umar did. The problem is that they're conveniently silent at certain times, but then when it's convenient to speak against certain people, then they'll speak, right? Ibn Umar pretended like nothing was going on. His methodology was, I'm just going to keep teaching religion and narrating the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and I have nothing to do with any of these things. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, once Ali established himself, he offered him to be a governor in Al-Basra. Okay, so Ali radiallahu anhu, he sent a letter to him and he says, Ya Aba Abdurrahman, I'm sorry, not Al-Basra, in Al-Sham. So actually to go to Al-Sham. He said, Ya Aba Abdurrahman, you are a man who is loved and obeyed by the people of Al-Sham. And he says, وَالَّيْتُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ, I've appointed you above the people of Al-Sham. So Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said to Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, let me be excused by my kinship to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and my companionship to him. By my kinship to him and my companionship to him, Ya Ali, excuse me. Ali radiallahu anhu said, no. I'm putting you in charge of Ash-Sham, whether you like it or not. So Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he got Hafsa to intercede on his behalf. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he still refused. And that's when Abdullah ibn Umar actually says, that's when he fled away from Ali radiallahu anhu. He basically ran away from Ali radiallahu anhu. He didn't talk to Ali anymore. Okay, he sent Ali radiallahu anhu letters, but he told him, I'm not going to get involved no matter what. And subhanAllah, Nafi' radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says that when Abdullah ibn Umar was making dua in his Qiyamul Layl, he said, you know, O Allah, that nothing prevents me from competing with the people for this world except for my fear of you. I have no need, the only thing that keeps me is my fear of you from competing with the people in regards to this. He rejected the conflict with Yazid ibn Muawiyah. He also tried to talk Al-Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu out of going and trusting the people of Kufa to go and fight with Yazid ibn Muawiyah. SubhanAllah, is very emotional. One by one, the Abadila, they spoke to Al-Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu and tried to talk to him out of it. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he just hugged him and he kissed him on his forehead. And he praised him. And subhanAllah, he left him, in tears. He didn't want him to die. He didn't want that to happen. He said, you were so beloved to the Prophet ﷺ. I don't want that to happen to you. So he tries to talk Al-Husayn out of it. When he's called upon by Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu ta'ala anhu to join with him, he doesn't join with him. He just avoids that as well. All right, so he avoids it all. And after, the dust kind of settles, when Yazid ibn Muawiyah passes away, Marwan ibn al-Hakam, he tells Abdullah ibn Umar, he says, Ya ibn Umar, هَلُمَّ يَدَكَ, give me your hand. He said, why? He says, هَلُمَّ يَدَكَ, give me your hand. He says, نُبَايِعُكَ فَأَنْتَ سَيِّدُ الْعَرَبِ وَابْنُ سَيِّدِ الْعَرَبِ. You know, we want to give our allegiance to you because you are the leader, you are the chief, you're the most noble of the Arabs, and you are the son of the most noble of the Arabs. And so Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu responded and he said, وَكَيْفَ أَصْنَعْ بِأَهْلِ الْمَشْرِقِ. What am I going to do about the people on the east that don't agree with this? And Marwan said, نَضْرِبُهُمْ حَتَّى نَحْمِلَهُمْ عَلَى أَنْ يُبَايِعُوا لَكَ. We will fight them until they agree to give their pledge to you. And he said, مَا أُحِبُّ أَنْ أَمْلِكَ 70 سَنَةً وَأَنْ يَقْتُلْ بِسَيْفِ or وَأَنْ يُقْتَلْ بِسَيْفِ رَجُلٌ واحد. He said, I wouldn't want to lead, I would not want to rule for 70 years if that meant even one person being killed in my cause. No, I don't want it. No one's gonna, and in one narration he said, not even a drop of blood in my cause, in my name. I don't believe in this methodology. He restrains himself again. He stays away from it once again.